we're talking with Tim Grogan, our first chair, first call drummer, percussionist on all of our sessions here at the 515 at the 522. Great to see you, Tim, and I've missed being with you and all the other guys the past month or so.
Man, so true. No, miss seeing you guys too, and miss the musicality. Where did that go? Because now I'm left with my own devices. This is bad.
Yeah, that's not. No, I'm not going to say that's not good, because it is good. You've been posting some really, really cool stuff. And for all of you watching this, you need to go to Tim's Facebook page and check out some of the stuff that he's been doing recently. He's a hell of a talent, and you need to check it out. So anyway, you were born in Dallas, is that right?
Cutting right to the Dallas thing. Right to the birth.
Right to the Dallas thing, yes.
Right to the birth. They cut the cord in Dallas. Yeah, Big D. And my parents were from that area too.
Yeah. And you started playing drums at a fairly early age, is that right?
Yeah, really more technically pillows is what I was playing.
Okay.
Yeah, I would set up a couple of pillows and kind of bang on them to whatever music was happening in the house. And then that led to my parents saying, well, maybe you have something. I guess we want to see. They were both, singers. And so they encouraged me to beat on things, which was probably a mistake. But
they were also both very musical too, right?
Yeah, they were both singers and musicians. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my dad had played a little bit of bass, and Mom played a little piano, but mostly singing was their bit.
Well, and she sang with several different groups and did some commercials and things in the Dallas area, right?
Yeah. They both actually sang in big bands early on, like in the late 40s, and that's actually how they met.
Yeah.
Singing in different bands that were moving around. And then, but Mom went on to do a lot of jingles. Dallas was known at that time in the 60s and 70s as cranking out a whole lot of vocal jingles, like all the radio IDs and whatnot they did. So, yeah, she did a lot of that and commercials.
So when did you actually start taking drum lessons and percussion lessons and when did that kind of start feeling serious for you as far as the lessons went?
I was probably 12 is the quick answer.
Okay.
Is when I really started trying to get disciplined about my musicianship. I was never good about it before. I played all the time, but I never liked the discipline of lessons. And even at 12, I had probably that first year was pretty rough. And I think about 13, I was able to buckle down a little better and actually go, all right, I will practice an hour a day with these lessons,
And by that time, I'm assuming you had a kit and were probably playing with some garage bands and doing some things like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Playing a lot at home under headphones, but some garage band stuff. And I had a little mix and match sort of jelly bean Ludwig kit with a few different colors. And, I had a couple of Zildjian cymbals, which was nice to start with. I had camber, some really B level or worse cymbals, worse actually. But it didn't matter, because they went, and that was all I wanted.
That's exactly right. Now, when did you start playing piano? Because for a lot of people that probably don't know, Tim is a great piano player, and in fact, for the first couple of years that that I was at the 515, Tim not only played drums, but then he would overdub the keyboards on a lot of the session.
You guys were very kind to let me wear those two hats at the same time. That was tricky. But I guess I started playing around the same time I discovered drums. There was always a There was always a little piano in the house, and they didn't mind if I went over and just noodled on it. So I would just sit over there and see what chord shapes I could make, and and just see what the sounds were, you know.
Well, did you take piano lessons as well?
I did for about, I don't know, maybe about 4 months or something, but it didn't work out because I would just memorize the pieces and go in and not read.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would play by ear, which, you know, unfortunately is actually cool, right? But also a problem when they're trying to teach you how to read and you're not doing the work. And so I would just go in and go, no, I just want to play it. And she'd say, you're not even looking at the music. You're not reading this. So that was a bust. That we knocked that off. And then so ever since then, I basically just played on my own.
But you certainly, I mean, you certainly did learn to read. I know you're one hell of a reader when it comes to percussion and drums.
Yeah, I did take, you know, during my lessons, yeah, reading was a big thing. My teacher was a teacher, his name was Tommy Gwynn. Anyway, he taught at the North Texas State University at the time, now University of North Texas. And he had played in the Dallas Symphony a bit, so he was a really well-rounded player. He did session work himself, and he kind of knew how to whip me into shape, and he wasn't taking no for an answer. Either I did that work or I was going to be out. So he was a good driving instructor. So I learned how to read a lot of stuff. One of his goals for me was that was the 70s. So he felt like what I should do is get my reading chops up to a certain point, and then when I hit 18 or 19, I should go to Vegas and audition for a bunch of shows out there and break into the biz that way. That was his whole thing, was to go to Vegas.
Go to Vegas.
You know,
I mean that, and at the time, you know, I mean that would have been mid 70s, I guess.
Right, yeah.
By the time you were ready to do that, and at the time, that probably was not all that bad of advice.
Mm-mm. No, a lot of guys were doing that, and that's how they got hooked up with other artists, and that's how they, you know, got experience, and it was the real deal. And you had to make it if you were going to be in that scene for sure, and you had to be a good reader. And there was a lot of competition, so I think he was trying to throw me into all of that stuff.
Yeah.
One.
Now you also were a percussionist with the Dallas Symphony Orchestra and several other orchestras. Were you doing that when you were 15, 16 years old?
I started that at around, 16, after I could drive. Me and a buddy were, I don't know, we just early on found that we really wanted to be drummers, and we wanted to make a career out of this. So we got serious, and we would egg each other on, and we both ended up in a couple of different orchestras, just as extras from time to time. I was never a permanent Dallas Symphony Orchestra guy. I would just be an extra for when they had big pieces that required some extra percussionists. If they were doing anything that required 6 percussionists or something like that, then I could sneak in there and do some things. I knew a couple of the guys in the symphony, and I was even in a band with one of them, Ron Snyder. For a while, he was playing percussion in a band I was playing drum set in. So I did get to do some stuff orchestral early on, which was really, really fun. Part of me wishes I could have kept that up, you know, and just because I think it would have been a fun career trajectory. But I'm much more the spirit of being in a band, I think, or playing jazz, or that's just a little more to my nature, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, and plus it was a lot cooler to do that than it was to stand in the back of the symphony with a pair of cymbals and go.
I loved doing that, though.
I'm sure
it was fantastic.
Before we move on, I have to ask you: did you ever play in the symphony? Since you had somewhat of a keyboard background, did you ever play like a marimba or, you know, anything like that in the symphony? Xylophone or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely all the mallet instruments like that, the keyboard mallet instruments I played. And I played celeste on a few things. just a few basic pieces and whatever kind of, I could fake it through that. I would have to take the music home and absolutely woodshed that because my keyboard reading isn't all that great. My grand staff reading is not all that great. But yeah, I did. I got a chance to do a lot of that stuff, and which is a perfect natural bridge between, playing piano and drums anyway.
Yep.
You're banging on the keys,
Yep. When did so you decided, you and your other friend that you had a band with and that also played in the different orchestras?
Yeah.
You guys decided fairly early on that you wanted to make music a career, that you wanted to do that for a living instead of getting a real job.
I did. I think it was one of those things where music got me out of a lot of trouble, believe it or not. Because as a kid, I was a little bit destructive. I was a little bit wild. I needed something to focus my energy on. So when I found drums, it was perfect because I could beat on them and it was really primal. But it also had that deeper musical connection, a different, deeper connection. And so, I had decided pretty early on that was going to be my thing. I was obsessed. That's all I wanted to do. That was everything to me.
When at what point did you go to Los Angeles? And had you had any collegiate music training or anything when you did go to LA, aside from the private lessons?
Yeah, I played in I played in a band that was part of the junior college system around Dallas. And I actually just enrolled for a band, and it was a big band. It was a big band thing. So it was Eastfield College, excuse me. And so I played in that band for a year just to do it. I think I took a theory course at the same time. But no, that was basically it. I wasn't really trying to go to college. My parents said, if you want to go to college, great, get a degree and do that. But, basically what you're going to do with a degree essentially is teach.
Right. Yeah.
And they weren't really wrong about that, especially at the time. Didn't seem like the best thing. There were a ton of gigs back in the late 70s and early 80s for live musicians. And I started doing them at 17. I started playing in a bar that I played in 5 days a week, 6 days a week for 7 years.
Yeah.
And it was a happy hour thing. And then I would go and do night gigs elsewhere. So I was pulling double duty 6 nights a week.
And that was when you were finishing up high school.
And that was finishing up high school. And then during what would have been college, I was just gigging so much. I thought, I'm just going to keep gigging, and get my name out there and start doing this now and go to the School of Hard Knocks, I guess, rather than get the degree thing. And then it was after that, was the end of that I moved to LA. So that would have been when I was 28.
And why? Did you move to LA specifically because of the music business out there and because of what that could provide, something more than the Dallas area? Yeah.
Yeah. I looked at probably like everybody that's come up through some town and they feel like they've gotten to a certain level and they want to move on and, try to keep challenging themselves. I looked at New York and I considered Nashville. And I looked at LA. I looked at mainly New York and LA the hardest. And I just didn't think I was going to survive New York. I thought, well, for my first foray into this, at least if I'm in LA and I'm starving, I could probably eat an avocado out of somebody's backyard.
Yeah.
or grab an orange from somewhere or something. It just seemed like an easier environment to jump into.
So when you got to LA, how did you plug in out there, Tim? What did you do to start getting work and being able to work out there?
I had some friends that were out there already, some players that had been out there doing session work and were successful for a few years. So one of them suggested to me that I go to work for a cartage company. So I did. I schlepped around other musicians that were high-level musicians doing all the big dates, basically, I schlepped their stuff. And I went and set it up for them, and then I maybe hang out and talk to people for a second, you know? And sometimes if I didn't have another delivery or a setup right on the heels of that, I would sit there and I'd check them out and see what was going on. So it was a weird introduction, kind of in a schleppy way, right? That I could get to be in the studios and be around those people. But I picked up everything I could from that. You know, I tried to learn from that. And then I just started telling people, hey, I know I'm just a grunt to you right now, but I actually play drums and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then I tried going down that road, which, I mean, it worked to a certain degree. It was helpful. That's kind of how I plugged into things. Other than the normal way you would, where you just, you know, you meet people and you do stuff. I was trying to kind of jump higher up, which may have been a bad idea, but just by getting around those guys that were already doing the stuff that I wanted to do.
Well, and plus, I'm sure you were going out at night and you were meeting people, you know, and people who were playing in bands and doing that kind of stuff at night. And probably some of those people also played sessions and you already knew them from schlepping their gear around. So
that's right. It ran the gamut from that to, you know, just finding somebody in the LA Weekly or something like that where you just answer an ad. You know, it's the typical thing when you're struggling out there, you know. I remember Ginger Baker had an ad in the wasn't the Weekly, but it was in the other rag. I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, it just said, you know, experienced drummer looking for project to be involved in. Serious inquiries only, something like that. Ginger Baker and his number.
Wow.
And so I thought, man, dude's falling on hard times, you know. You know, wow, really? You went from Clapton to an ad, you know. But things happen. I mean, things happen. Absolutely. Yeah. So, that's what I did mostly was I plugged into that Carthage scene. Hey, that got me into all the big sound stages.
Yeah.
I got to witness big, giant orchestral dates with guys with big keyboard rigs and what the drummer was doing. And, you know, Vinny would be on sessions and I could kind of go check that out. I got to watch Weckl do a couple of Chick Corea sessions. Just any of the stuff that was fascinating to me at the time, wow. It just helped me get closer.
Yeah. Well, now at some point in L.A., you ran into Rod Lewis.
That guy.
And how did that happen? Because I know you guys played quite a bit together out there.
Yeah. I never went out to Los Angeles thinking I'd be playing country music. Right. And I got to Los Angeles, and it was Urban Cowboy 2, as some of us were calling it, just exploding. And the Garth Brooks bit and Billy Ray Cyrus and all that music was just exploding. So there was so much work to be had. So I thought, cool, I've never even done this before. Let me go check it out, you know, and see what it's about. Maybe I like this music. I don't know. And so I started playing some. I got a couple gigs, and that's how I met Rod. I had accepted a couple of gigs, and one was at the Pomona County Fair or LA County Fair, whatever's in Pomona. Yeah, that's what it was. Anyway, immaterial. I met this guy who ended up introducing me roundaboutly to Rod and recommended me to Rod and Laura, who was singing in his band at the time, her band, maybe even. I guess it really was her band.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just kind of one thing led to another. I started playing. I said yes to doing some country gigs. And then all of a sudden, you know, one person introduced me around and I met Rod and I auditioned for that band, for Laura's band. And then, and they gave me the gig. So, yeah, I started working with them and we worked for years together out there doing it, country.
Well, tell me, jumping ahead here, because I don't want to run out of time, and I've got quite a bit more things I want to ask you about. Desert Rose Band.
Yeah.
Assuming that came together while you were in LA, or did that come together after you moved to Nashville?
No, that was definitely an LA thing. They were all LA guys.
Right.
With the exception of Tom Brumley, who was playing steel guitar for them at the time from the Buckaroos.
He took JD's place.
He did.
Yeah. Okay. Was Jorgensen still with the band when?
No. So that was such a fun band. Jorgensen had left, and Steve Duncan, the original drummer, had left, and J.D. Manus, the original steel guitar player, they had all left. That band had gone through some stuff, in turmoil, band stuff, it happens. So they all kind of left at the same time, basically, very close to the same time. And I heard about auditions, actually, again, through the guitar player that was in Laura's band.
Okay.
He went and auditioned for them, and he threw my name in the ring or whatever. And so I went out and auditioned and got the gig. So yeah, that was in L.A. and because they were all L.A. guys. That damn crazy fun.
And so how long did you actually play? You were playing gigs with them and with Rod and Laura at the same time, right?
Yeah. Yes. Rod and Laura were nice enough to me to let me go out with the band, with Desert Rose Band rather. And then, when we had off time, whatever gigs they had, they kind of held the spot for me and would let me back on those gigs for when I came back in. And then they had a couple of regular subs that they would use basically for me to play. Cause that band was gigging all over the place. Rod and Laura it was steady work, really.
Yeah.
So they were super kind to me to let me do that because I got a chance to go out and do that thing and then come back and have a gig waiting.
Yeah. So
yeah, it was at the same time.
So when did you make the decision to move to Nashville? And did you and Rod come to Nashville at the same time? Did you both make that decision? You and Rod and Laura all make that decision at the same time? Or
no, we didn't, but really close together. Yeah, I just one marriage crumbling for me was enough to. I needed to have a change of scenery, and Rod and Laura had already moved out. They'd come out a year before, at least, maybe a little more than that. And I had been through town, visited, and hung out. And Rod and I talked about, man, this town is going places. It's not only going to be this amazing center for country music, but we felt like it was going to be a really cool alternative scene and just other musics as well.
Yes.
And you could. So 95, 96, I guess.
Yeah.
You could just feel it. It was starting to bubble and seethe. It was cool. Like we just felt like, what a cool place to be. And so he and I almost sort of made a pact, I think, really back then, that we should get together and try to do some production stuff and team up and see what we could stir up around here. So that I moved here in January of 96. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Rod decided that he wanted to build the 515 studio.
Yeah.
And you partnered up with him on that and put in a lot of the sweat equity and the time and the energy to actually build that studio.
Yeah. I had home studios since I was about 20 years old. So I had been kind of down that road already, home studios wise. Then he and I built a little home studio in a bonus room in his house. That's what led to 515, some other events, obviously, as well. But anyway, so yeah, we had a chance to do that together. And we had already had some experience for a couple years, basically, running a little home studio. And so that opportunity became available to him. And so we jumped on that. Yeah.
Some of that stuff you guys did in that little home studio is great. I've heard some of it, not a lot of it, but I've heard some of it, and it really and truly sounds great. It's wonderful music.
That's
wonderful music.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, ADATs. We were using ADATs.
ADATs. Yep. Now you also, once you were here, you played with Jeffrey Steele for a while and Aaron Tippin.
Yeah. Jeffrey is an LA connection for me too.
Yeah.
Because I went out with him with Boy Howdy for a year.
Yeah.
And that was after the Desert Rose Band broke up. So I kind of went from the one gig to the other, thankfully, with a couple of ends that I had that they offered me those gigs. So, but yeah, after I moved here, Jeff had moved here around, I don't know, same thing, mid 90s, I guess, 95, 96. And so, so that was an instant connection when I got here to Nashville. He was like, yeah, man, come on, let's do some stuff. So I played on a number of demos for him for a while, some live stuff with him, and we wrote some stuff together and kind of tried a little rock project together, and we just kind of had a good time being buddies.
He's a hell of a talent. Always has been, man. I mean, he's crazy. And that throws us ahead to you're now playing fairly regular with one of my all-time favorite artists, Steve Warner. And Steve was signed to MCA Records when I was there in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
And so I got to know Steve then. What a prance of a person, and what a hell of a talent.
I couldn't amen that any harder, man. I mean, what a great guy and an amazing talent, and just so much fun to be around, and just really wants to play great music. That's really what he wants to do. It turns out, he's got, great star quality, and he's a great singer and all, but I mean, he really kind of came to town. I know he did as a musician. He wanted to be a player.
Yeah.
He became an artist and found that he was capable of that, and that suited him. Yeah, I've worked with him for about a year and a half on and off now.
He had to have been pretty good because Chet Atkins took him under his wing.
Yeah.
And anybody that was around Chet had to have been a great musician.
Yeah.
And I was able to get to see some of the sessions where Steve was overdubbing and working on his projects, and phenomenal musician.
Yeah. I'm so grateful to have that gig now too. It's just what a great guy to get to be around. I mean, just super positive and super talented, and just a lot of fun. And it's a mutual respect. I told him when I kind of went out and played with him and sort of did this audition thing, and he said, "Yeah, I want to use you. Come on, let's do it." I said, "This is going to be great for me because not only will I get to be in your band, but I just want to let you know, I've been a fan for a long time."
Yeah.
So when Laura were out, when I worked with that band, I mean, some of the songs that I would sing from the drums were Steve Wariner songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of a full circle thing for me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about what you're doing now. I mean, you've got your home studio. We can see some of that there behind you, and you've got a band called the Penn Jones Conspiracy.
I do. I love my band. I'm playing keyboards in that band, and my buddy Ben Jackson is the drummer, and then our mutual buddy Benjamin Olson.
Yes.
The singer. Yeah. So that's a fun thing. We're just writing music. I don't know exactly what to call it, but whatever. It's its own little thing, and it doesn't have a bass player. I'm playing keyboard bass, Moog bass or whatever, and and Benjamin's out front singing, and then Ben's playing drums. That's been a really fun endeavor, and we've got probably 10 songs out in the world, I guess, maybe 8, maybe only 8.
So when you guys play live, you've sequenced, a whole lot of the sounds and everything, and you're doing a keyboard part, but everything else, all the other stuff is sequenced.
It's very little of it is sequenced, actually. Mm-hmm. I have taught myself to play these bass lines that I came up with. Before I was thinking about, we might have to do these live, and I was just writing bass parts or whatever. But I've kind of trained myself to do those bass parts left-handed, and then to do whatever comping and melody stuff is happening right-handed on a variety of 2 keyboards that are in front of me on this side,
Gotcha.
I have a little surrounding setup. There are some pads that are sequenced that just sort of fill us out a little bit, but the key ingredients I'm playing, because we just decided that would be cooler, and it was such a challenge. I was like, I gotta try this.
Well, and those pad kinds of things, as we all know, kind of glue everything together.
Right.
When that's kind of going in there, it's kind of meshing everything together.
Yeah. or just a big fat cord will help. But yeah, a lot of it's pretty sparse anyway.
What is it that you? I mean, have you got future plans? I know you've got Lila, your young daughter, and you're married to Penny, and you've got a really nice home life, and you're not on the road a whole lot. So
yeah,
the future looks good.
Yeah, I'm just trying my hand at doing some film work and some television work, specifically. And I got to score a little indie film. I got to score a little horror film. It was full length, full feature, whatever, feature length film, you would say.
When's that going to be out?
They just put together the audio, so I think it's going to be out pretty soon. I would say in the next few months.
Will you put something on your Facebook page so that everybody watching this can know to look for that and look at that movie that comes out?
Yeah, it was so much fun, and I mean it was probably I'm going to guess I probably spent, now only because I'd never done one before, but I probably spent about 350 hours on that. I bet,
Sure.
maybe more. I don't know. I wasn't keeping track. I just tried to remember. Wonder how long that was. How many hours would that have been? And anyway. It was a lot, but so much fun. I would like to do more of that.
It has to be fulfilling to do something like that and look back on it and know that you did it. It really, that has to be for a musician and for somebody in the music business. That has to be the epitome of it.
Well, it was really great for me because I didn't know if I could. I believed I could do it. Which is like, anything, I guess, you believe you could do it and then you go, well, let's see if I can or not.
Let's see if I can. All right. Well, I'm afraid we're running out of time here, Tim. We've only got so much time on this little program that I've got. So thank you, man. And hopefully we're looking at Cinco de Mayo. So hopefully yep. I will be shooting you guys an email here in the next few days.
Well, fingers crossed about that, and I hope we can do it. And I hope everybody can stay well and do whatever they need to do that, and take care of their friends and family, because it's a bizarro time.
It's a bizarro time. Well, thank you, man, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Yeah, sounds great, Chip. Thanks again.
Okay, bye.
Bye.